just talk for a minute. More people coming. The last time I talked about, this meditation, the last time I talked about the meditation being hard work. And, hard work has a very bad connotation in our world. What it really means is being unhappy, drudgery, but that has nothing to do with this meditation. The work is the building of an inner life that is strong enough to do exactly the opposite, to live as a happy human being, to have a joyous life, full of fun, full of all the, the wonderment that life has to offer us as human beings. And when I talk about hard work, I'm not talking about, slaving on the docks or, doing drudgery work and that type of thing. I'm talking about a work that is inside oneself, that is essential if we're going to open up inside to truly, connect with spirit, with God, with higher energy in the universe. And the only reason it even resembles hard work is all the resistance that exists inside people. As we learn to overcome that resistance, the work is no longer hard. It's just doing what is essential, in order to have a spiritual life. And the ultimate goal of a spiritual life, as I've said many times, happy people are enlightened people. It's to really attain a state of ananda, a state of happiness, of joy, of love, interacting with the world with compassion, with service, and living a life that way. Now, you can't live a life that way and be heavy, but you can live a life being heavy if you don't develop a system inside that enables you to keep the heart open. So when I talk about hard work, that's exactly what I mean. I don't mean drudgery. What I mean is doing what is essential to develop an inner life and to overcome the resistance that we all have to growing, to being with God, to living here and being compassionate human beings, loving human beings, treating each other with respect, listening to each other. That's a big element in all of this. Getting quiet enough in oneself where you can listen and learn from somebody else. So I don't mean to turn people off when I say hard work, because the meaning of hard work, at least my definition of it, is not drudgery. It's joyous work. It's work full of wonderment. It's discovery work. It's digging for treasure inside oneself. And I think that is really what this is about, uncovering vast and wondrous treasures that exist inside each and every one of us. It's not easy to do. If it was easy to do, 7 billion people would be doing it. So it's hard work, but it's not drudgery. It's not work that we hate to do. It's work that we love to do. It's like being an artist. Please try and sit still, please. It's like being an artist, it's work. It's very difficult work. But when you really are in tune with that creative force, it's work full of wonderment, full of splendor, creative work. Same thing with music, the same thing with anything we do in life. So I hope what I spoke about wasn't misinterpreted or turned people off, because we live in a world where everybody thinks that in a couple of years they're going to retire, and to me, retiring was always like the end of your life. You were dead. You go sit in a rocking chair somewhere in Palm Beach and, watch the waves as they hit the shore. It always was something I was afraid of. The idea of retiring used to threaten me so much that it made me even work harder on myself. So what I'm talking about is not an easy life, but a life full of wonderment, full of internal treasures that also manifest in the external world, and a life that really gives us a reason to get up every day in the morning and a reason to really do our lives and do it in a really creative way. So I mean, so if I say hard work, don't think I'm trying to intimidate everybody, or make you a slave to something. I'm trying to get people to overcome that resistance and to really find the treasures that exist inside. And that's really where the treasures exist, inside each and every one of us. So please, everyone, try to go deep inside. And we'll have a meditation class. After the class, if anyone has a question, I would be happy to try and answer it. I've unmuted everyone, and if anyone has a question, I'll be happy to try and answer it.
Hi, Stuart. I know I see you doing it all the time, but can you talk about how to internalize the Om sound?
Internalize the Om? Well,
yeah.
I mean, the Om sound is a vibration, and it's, often heard. Please try and sit still, everybody. It's heard, it's almost like a high-pitched electronic sound that will come into you through the top of your head. And, if you hear it, you just do the exercise, you do the inner work, and you develop and open the chakras, and that Om sound, that vibration will go into the chakra system, and it'll nurture each chakra. But, it needs for you, for me, for anyone that practices inner work, to do the inner work, to make room for it to come inside us. The sound of creative energy is a vibration that is always there. And what's missing is the openness in people to allow that vibration to attune them to higher energy in the universe. So it depends upon how deeply you work inside yourself. It comes back almost literally to the same answer all the time, If you want, I work with the Om sound constantly. And I work with it because of so many years of training in myself that this chakra system stays open and it absorbs that vibration. And that vibration energizes each and every chakra inside you. It's also a direct link to higher energy in the universe. So it's doing and learning to master, the breathing technique, the meditation that we practice. And what I learned from Rudy, and I've learned it through my own work, is that this meditation will literally take you as far as you want to go. I mean, you can get off on any floor in the department store and shop, or you can continue on the elevator right up through the cosmos to a state of nothingness, a oneness with higher energy in the universe. And all the meditation is for is to build a system that allows us to do it. I mean, I always tell people it's not a religion, it's not Hinduism, it's not Buddhism, it's not Christianity, it's not Judaism, it's not a religion, it's a craft. It stems from ancient, Hindu and Buddhist, yogic teachings, but the meditation in and of itself is not a religion. It's simply a craft that one learns. And in learning that craft, it opens you to the depth of every single thing that's ever been taught in the history of the universe. You will find the deepest elements of Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, humanism, because the deepest elements of all those religions exist inside each and every one of us. And the Om sound is not a religion, it's a vibration. Simply a vibration. And as it vibrates, it has this high-pitched electronic sound. When I was a kid, I used to lie in bed and hear that sound all the time. And I could never figure out where the hell it was coming from. Like, where's that coming? I lie in bed trying. I'm sure many of you have had the same experience.
But you say it comes in the top of our head, the head.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll come in through the crown chakra, and then it'll move down to each chakra, depending upon how open you are to receive it. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, do you hear and feel the Om sound?
Yes. Yes, it's a vibration. You will hear it, you will feel it. It comes into you. It will expand each chakra. So it's not just Om, it's not just that. It is actual a field of energy. It's like Om is the word of creation. It's like even in the Bible, they say, in the beginning was the word. It's sound that creates everything. So the Om sound is creating all manifestation. It's like God's messenger to create the universe. And if we open, we just receive it and it comes in and it creates us. It really builds us inside ourselves and strengthens our connection with higher energy and enables a human being to attain a state of enlightenment. So you hear it, you feel it, it's energy. It's a vibration. It emanates from absolutely the source of all energy in the universe. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart?
Yes?
Can you speak about the time you met a certain rinpoche and how you were able to receive teachings from him and what he may have revealed to you?
Yeah, that's a long one.
I know, I love that story.
Big story. It's one of the great stories of my life, that meeting with Kala Rinpoche. I mean, I don't know how to shorten this, look, I wrote a book. It's in my book. You can read about it. I'm not sure which book, but in one of my books, there's that whole story of Kala Rinpoche, about the meeting. And it became a legend in their monastery, And it was simply, it's simply this. It was a very simple thing. I went with a student of mine his name is Ra Silver. We went to a monastery in near Darjeeling. It was called Sanada Monastery. And I'll never forget, we walked into the monastery. We were doing a tour with some Tibetan lamas. And the tour was to meet every Rinpoche within a 20-mile radius of Darjeeling. So he finally took us to this place called Sanada. And we went in, and there must have been 300 monks sitting in the courtyard there with their yapa beads and Om Mani Padme Hum and Om Mani. And one of them came up to us, and I asked him, I said, is it possible for us to see Rinpoche? And he said, no, Rinpoche is very sick. He's not seeing anybody. So I said, we've come from a very long distance. We won't take up much of his time, but maybe he'll give us an audience. Can you check with him? So the guy came back with this really surprised look on his face and said, Rinpoche said he will see you. And we went in and we brought these, these silk scarves, the white silk scarves that you offer, as just your gratitude for meeting a teacher, Gave him the silk scarves. He was lying in bed and he had a blanket up to his neck and he really looked like he was dying, the man. And I said to him, Rinpoche, I don't want to disturb you, but is it possible you can talk for a few minutes about Tibetan Buddhism? We're here to learn. So we sat down, we're sitting at his bedside, and we were doing Rudy's meditation practice. And the Rinpoche recognized that there was something important in this. And he began to talk about Tibetan Buddhism. He went on for almost an hour talking about Tibetan Buddhism. And then I asked him, I said, when he was finished, I said, can we come back tomorrow? And he said, yes. So, we came back the next day and we were sitting there and we gave him the scarves. We were sitting there and, I said, can you talk about Tibetan Buddhism? And he went on again for an hour. But this time he wasn't lying in bed with a blanket up to his neck. He was sitting in his robes on the bed, cross-legged on the bed. And he went on and he talked for about an hour. And when he finished, I said to him, can we come back and see you again tomorrow? And he said, yes, please. So as we were leaving the monastery, Bob, who I knew him as Bob then, he said to me, that there's a book, The 9 Disciplines of Naropa. And one of them in the book is a discipline of Tumo, which is a Tibetan Buddhism form of yoga that is similar to what we practice. So I said, okay, great. I didn't know about this. I had never known about that element of Tibetan Buddhism. Next day we come back, Rinpoche is sitting he's on a throne chair in full teaching regalia. It's extraordinary. The guy was lying in bed. He looked like he was dying 2 days before. We sat down and I asked him, I said, Rinpoche, can you please talk about the 6 disciplines of Naropa, specifically the discipline of Tumo? And this was all done through a translator because he didn't speak English, the Rinpoche. The Rinpoche went on for almost 3 hours talking about the most esoteric forms of Tibetan Buddhism, stuff you'd have to wait 20 years to hear if you went to a lamasery. And, and the translator looked at me and he said, I've been living in this monastery for 13 years. I have never heard these teachings. The translator said that to me. And he went on and on. It was unbelievable. And I don't even remember. All I remember is the energy was so powerful. And then I said to him at the end, I asked him, I said, Rinpoche, I'm thinking of moving back to New York. And he said to me, you must move back to New York. He said, if you live in New York, your teachings will be known all over the world. And I mean, it really just kind of confirmed something I really felt that I had to leave Denton, Texas. That another year in Denton, Texas would have not in any way, I had done everything I could possibly do there. And there was nothing else I could do there. So anyway, before we left, he said something to me that I really never forgot. He said, when he was a young tulku in Tibet, he would go to see his Rinpoche. He would get on a line with hundreds of monks that had questions for the Rinpoche. And he said, today you can't find anybody to teach. It just broke my heart because Rudy used to say the same thing, how hard it is to find people that truly, truly want to learn what it is to have a spiritual life. And it just kind of broke my heart, I bowed to him, I thanked him, I was so grateful for what he gave to us. It was amazing what he gave to us. Anyway, to make a long story short, about 10 years later, I had moved back to New York and I was teaching all over the United States. I was teaching all over Europe. Everything he said to me came true. I was teaching in Athens and in Switzerland and Berlin and Paris. And I mean, my life was like, it was nonstop, doing this all over America and Sao Paulo, Brazil. I was teaching. It was unbelievable, what was going on in my life. But I was in San Francisco and I was there to do a retreat with students I had in San Francisco. And I had to give a talk at a yoga society. And I'll never forget this. It was unbelievable. One of my students comes up to me and he said, "You got to talk to this guy. You're not going to believe this when you hear this." So I went over and this, Buddhist student told me this story, how in the middle 70s, like 1977 it was, or something like that, Kala Rinpoche was dying. And these two seekers came from the West, and their need for a spiritual life was so strong, it brought him back to life again. I mean, it sent chills through my body that what happened that day became a legend in their monastery. It was extraordinary. It was extraordinary. So it was like something you would read in some ancient Tibetan text, what happened. It was so amazing. And it's been with me all my life. I have just an infinite gratitude to Kala Rinpoche. I mean, he really taught me something. He gave me an entire Tibetan Buddhist education in 3 hours, which would take 25 years to learn. And I was just very grateful. It was amazing, And then sometime, and I think it was in the late 90s, I went back to that monastery, and Kala Rinpoche had passed on. He had taken a samadhi. And they showed me where his ashes, where he was buried. There was a tombstone there, and I was standing there. And I went very deeply inside myself. And he said to me, "I've been waiting for you to come back." And in the next hour, he gave me such an important teaching about wisdom and compassion, which is basically the essence of Tibetan Buddhism. And he said, "I've been waiting for you to come to finish up your education." And all of this was made possible because of Rudy's meditation exercise. I wasn't there to chat with him on some esoteric ideas about Tibetan Buddhism. We weren't there to do that. We were there to really learn something very profound. And he knew it. And what he gave was it was so miraculous, the teachings that he imparted to us, that it affected me for the rest of my life. And this is a long time ago. So like in the 1970s, late 1970s. And then I moved back to New York and I started all over again. I really did. I started with nothing again. But I knew what I had to do because another year in Denton, Texas, probably, I just say it's not going to work for me. I've done whatever I can do here. I really have done. But to support it, I needed someone with the wisdom of a Kala Rinpoche to say, yes, you have to do that. And then I didn't know who he was when I met him. Turned out he was like on the level of the Dalai Lama, the Karmapa. He was, buddies with those guys, He was on that level of a teacher. I had no idea who he was when I first met him. And it shows you how God provides, if you really are open, you really need. It's amazing what they send you. And it's always a total shock and a complete surprise.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question?
During the meditation, are you working to like expand your energy outward and when you're opening?
I'm working to expand the energy inside myself, and then it itself will expand outward. You go to the source, to the center of the chakra, you open, you know, and then it expands. I mean, there's no limit to how each and every one of the chakras can expand. But you got to go to the deepest place in yourself, in the chakra, to open it. And as you open it, it's like a great lotus flower. It just expands endlessly. But you don't have to do that. It will do it itself. All it asks is to be opened. And that's what the breathing technique is for.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? You know, I'll tell you a funny story. The reason I knew my 9 years in Denton, Texas was finished, across the street from the ashram, there was a funeral home called Schmidt's Funeral Home. And I used to know the guy who owned it. And I met him on the street about 6 months before I left Denton, Texas. And he said to me, "Stuart, I buried the best of them here." He was like, telling me he's going to bury me, you know? I said, governors, senators, doctors, Lord, I buried the best of them. And I said, "Jack, I promise you, by everything that's sacred on the planet Earth, you're not going to bury me." Like God talking to me. It was time to move on. I buried the best of them. No shot if you bury me here. I told you. Anyway, it was a great place, that town. It really gave me the whole foundation of my spiritual practice. And I never forget it. And I'm just deeply grateful for the time I spent there. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay. If there are no more questions, then there'll be a meditation class on Wednesday. And God bless you all. Thank you for being here and participating in this. And I want you to know I have a profound respect for every person that attends these classes. And every single one of you really makes me work deeply on myself. And I'm very grateful for that. And thank you. And we'll have meditation again on Wednesday. And I hope to see, if you know people that want to attend this, you know, they're very welcome. You just have them get in touch with me and I will arrange for them to learn the exercise and whatever, and they're invited. So bless you all, thank you, and hopefully I'll see everybody on Wednesday.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Good night.
Thank you, Stuart.
Night.
Bye.